You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, going into our discussion, Osun State governorship election may have come and gone, but the outcome of the election, won by the People's Democratic Party candidate Ademola Adeleke, leaves scar on the chances of the ruling All Progressives Congress in the coming 2023 general elections. Now, is this like a wake-up call of some sort for the APC? This is what we're going to be looking at. And we have in the studio Paul James, the Program Manager Election, Yaga Africa, to talk about this. And we'll also be having other guests join us later on the program. For now, we have Paul James. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
on
so
Daybreak.
much for the invitation.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people have commended INEC for the Osun governorship election. Observers, I believe, like you, who were at that poll, and the rest of them. Do you actually consider this Osun election as a victory for the country?
Sure, it was a marked improvement over the past elections that INEC have conducted. We went into that election with apprehension, given the history of previous elections in Nigeria, where you see one election is good, you go into the next election and you see issues, especially given where we're coming from. Election happened at our backyard here, the FCT election, and so we all remember the challenges that happened. 9:30, some locations were yet to start voting and counting. INEC went into the Ekiti election and did relatively well. So we all had the fears that if what we have seen in the past is true, then we might be prepared for the worst in Osun election. But then we saw a very determined INEC. At Yaga Africa, we started observing Osun since March. We had long-term observers in all the 30 local government. We deployed 30 long-term observers. And consistently in all 5 reports that we had released, we saw that determination, that zeal on the part of INEC to give the people of Osun a good election. There was early engagement with stakeholders. There was training upon training consistently of ad hoc staff. If we go into the election, you see that the management of the beavers this time worked optimally, better than even what we saw in Ekiti. But that's also because of the fact that INEC decided to train and retrain its ad hoc staff on how to manage that device. But over and beyond that also is the commitment of other stakeholders around the election, which gave us the kind of election we saw. I wouldn't want to view Osun election with just what we saw on July 16, but then the build-up from, like I said, for us we started from March, but I know most planning started even earlier than that. There were concerns before the election. For me, I wanted to see the election in 3 phases, on 3 tripods. One is the role of the security in the election. 2 is election administration. 3 is citizens' participation. Because we had expressed apprehension before the election about the growing influence of cult groups in the election. Consistently, our observers reported boys associated with someone, any barber or something, that was terrorizing people in some of the communities. Reports from Ejigbo, Ilesha East, Ilesha West, and also around Oshobo showed how they were terrorizing people in the build-up to the election. So we had our engagements with, had a visit to the Commissioner of Police in the state, and also at some point even interfaced with the DIG in charge of election, Babatunde Johnson Kokumo, where they keep giving assurances that they were ready to police the election, and we saw what they did. So credit to them that relatively the election was peaceful. Also on the part of the citizens of the state, the residents of the state, this is the election that had over 800,000 participated in the process. The last election in 2018, 600,000 participated, so an increment of over 200,000. That enthusiasm was seen even in the build-up to the election. I had the opportunity of visiting about 4 or 5 local governments for voter mobilization. I was in the Ife Axis, Ife North, Ife Central, Ife East, and then I came down to Ede. My team and I did like a 2-day of voter mobilization there. And what we saw the commitment on the part of the citizens, but one thing they keep raising, the concern they keep raising is around insecurity that if the police will ensure a peaceful process, they were going to come out to vote. And then you saw the numbers on election day, and you saw also how the election went. So I thought, for me, it's a combination of several factors, but most importantly, those issues are highlighted about the pre-election and the determination of the people to ensure a good election in Osun.
Okay, I saw one of the reports as well by ACSO CDD, where Dr. Idayat Hassan also commended the determination and enthusiasm of the people. And it showed that there was a marked, we didn't have the case of a voter apathy like it happened in Anambra and maybe even Ekiti. What do you think was responsible for that?
Well, whether we like it or not, I think there is a new incentive that we need to be talking about in our election now, which is this idea of vote buying. I wouldn't say it happened, it was rampant in Osun State, but for some people, that might be a motivation. You can look at it from a positive light. As much as I don't want that to be associated with our elections, elections are getting better. The trust level in the process is increasing, especially with the introduction of these beavers. Perhaps people have seen what beavers have done in other elections. In Ekiti election, by 10 p.m., the results from the 2,445 polling units were uploaded on the INEC online viewing portal, where everybody could see. In Osun, what we saw were even the willingness of some people to support INEC, where INEC officials will complain about technology, network failures. People will support them with even data, internet, to upload the results. So there was that determination. But again, the new wave of what we saw in the last 2 months, given the party primaries that happened and the new interest in the engagement of the process. But again, we must give credit to the people of Osun. If you go back to the voter registration, since INEC started on June 28th last year, the numbers have been consistent in Osun. Over 700,000 have engaged the online pre-registration, and over 300,000 in Osun have done the physical registration. Like I said, the voter figures in 2018 was 1.6 million. We went into this election, the voter registration figure is 1,955,000, an increase of over 300,000. So that shows you that the people are politically conscious, the people are aware that about the power of their vote and how that can change the outcome of that election. I think that is what we saw played out. I had my fears, like, because Osun was taking the lead in the pre-election, in the registration engagement, I had concerns that I hope it wasn't just some politicians sponsoring this and the election will come, you don't see people to actually come out to engage the process. But wow, an increment of over 200,000 over what we saw in 2018, and given all the circumstances surrounding the election also, security concerns and all of that, I think we must give credit to the people of Osun. If you compare this data against the data from 2014, the data is consistent in terms of participation. 2014, 54% participated in the election, although the voter registration then was about 1.4 million. In this election, based on the PVCs collected, 1.4 million PVCs were collected. Based on that figure, 54% participated in the election, although if you look at the election with the lenses of the voter register, about 42%, according to INEC data, participated in that process. But I think, for me, it showed the consistency in the engagement. 2014, 54 million. 2018, 54% rather. 2018, 46%. And then here we are. But based on PVT collected, 54%, based on voter register, 42%. So I think we need to give the people the credit that they deserve.
All right. Well, your organization, YAG Africa, had a report prior to the election day where it noted that about 246 polling units had, about 1,000 or more voters. And all of that. So that leads to the issue of congestion and all of that. That would have been handled better, isn't it? What would we have done differently?
Well, we raised concerns about the imbalance in voter distribution to polling unit. This is also with the background of what INEC had done last year to increase access for voters. INEC expanded our polling unit from 119,000 we used to have to 176,000. In Osun used to have 3,010 polling units. Now Osun has 3,763, an increment of 753 polling units. So what we saw from the analysis of the polling unit was that there were 246 with 1,000 or more registered voters. There were 8 with 2,000 or more, and then there was 1 polling unit with 3,000 or more registered voters. Now, the idea of this expansion was, one, to ease administration and election day, and also to increase access for voters. While this has solved the political decision of increasing the polling unit to also improve participation, the challenge of imbalance in voter distribution remains, because even in Osun, there were polling units that finished election as early as 12 noon. The official time for finishing the poll was supposed to be 2:30.
Was it because of the numbers
because
that
of the
were
number,
allocated
some
to that
of the PUs polling units had only 40 voters.
And some
had about 1,000.
Some had
late
over
in the night.
1,000. This is against the threshold of 750 that INEC has set. So we know, I mean, this happened last year. We know also the challenges surrounding some of the political decisions INEC have to take around this.
What could have been responsible for that?
All right. Okay, just before we will let you, maybe just hold your thoughts while we get our other guest who joins us virtually from Birnin Kebbi. He is Yakubu Ahmed, an APC member and also a close associate of the APC vice presidential candidate. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hello there.
Yeah, I can hear you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak. Hello. Well, it appears that we have an issue with our audio, but if you can hear me, well, a lot of, commendations for INEC in the just concluded Osun governorship election. Do you agree with the observations that have been raised, the commendations about how, the election was, adjudged to be free and fair? Hello? Well, it looks like we've lost audio there. But if you may, just...
the issue of this oversized polling units, we thought, because I wouldn't want to say INEC rushed into it, but perhaps INEC would have expanded its engagement with stakeholders before all of this happened. Now, if you recall, when we used to have more than 750 voters, what INEC decided to be doing there was to split on election into what we call voting points, or if you like, baby polling units. Now, these are people that are all in the same place. All they do is to divide them in alphabetical order, maybe perhaps A to L here, and then M to Z in the other side. But now you have all of these people in one place. These are voters that have been voting for the past 10 years. I guess the challenge has been, how do you communicate to these voters about their new location? Because some of these new locations are not even far from this oversized polling units. Now, for me, it is easy. Pull up the list of these polling units, put them in strategic locations, and tell people, we have new locations. Now, if you are willing to come, if you think this is closer to where you stay, you can apply to get your registration moved to this location. So perhaps that is a challenge. And INEC can partner with telecommunication companies to get that to happen. As simple as they have records of every voter. As simple as sending text messages to say, you used to vote in this location, but now we see a new location.
But how about the literacy level of the voters? Don't you think that could be a problem?
That is why you do voter education, and don't make voter education episodic. As soon as Osun is done, we have 2023. We start the engagement from now so we can reduce this problem, because the challenge is with the new wave of interest you're having in election. We had places in Osun that voting went into the night because of the size of voters that came out to engage the process. As you are getting this interest in the process. We're saying the process might be difficult for INEC to manage in 2023 if it is not addressed now.
All right. Okay, then. I understand we've got Yakubu Ahmed back again. Let's hear from him. Yakubu Ahmed is an APC member and also a close associate of the APC vice presidential candidate. He joins us via Zoom from Birnin Kebbi. So, Yakubu Ahmed, if you can hear me, thank you for joining us on Daybreak. When you give us your own take on the outcome of the Osun governorship election, a lot of commendations for INEC. Do you agree? All right. Well, apparently we haven't gotten him back yet. So now, again, another issue, is that of voter inducement. And with regards to the performance of security agencies in terms of apprehending those who are involved with this, like in Ekiti State, we've had cases of how security personnel look the other way while vote buying is going on and all of that. In terms of Osun, governorship election, were there arrests, and what were we expecting? Or rather, what are we expecting to see if there were any?
I think what happened in Ekiti for some security personnel was a reality check, a culture shock, if you like, deviating from the norm of what they used to have, because in Ekiti, we saw that commitment also on the part of the police to introduce the electoral offences tax with the intention to arrest and apprehend whoever is involved in that. So for some of the officials that used to aid and abet this, it was strange for people to just tell them, hey, you need to make this arrest. As much as we think there should have been some sort of education and training for the officials before they went into the field, we saw the ICPC and the EFCC stepped in Ekiti. In Osun, there was a stakeholder meeting that happened the Thursday before the election, 2 days to the election, with the security heads and observers and media. Those concerns were raised, and then there was a commitment by the security there that they were going to arrest, they were going to prosecute. What is left is to name and shame those people. Arrests were made. We saw clips, we saw videos, we heard about arrests that were made. There was a marked improvement in Osun compared with what we saw in Ekiti. So we are hoping that if this is a new order, my sense also about this vote buying is we shouldn't make it an election day thing. We see vote buying in the build-up to the election as capacity building initiative, family support initiative, poverty alleviation initiatives. But then election day, we give it a different coloration, different name. In Osun, consistently in our report, we have been reporting these incidents of vote buying. Some of them you see, they are glaring. You see a candidate face on, for instance, a bag of beans, a bag of rice, and then you call it poverty support. Or the week of the election in Osun, which coincided with the Leia festivities. Yeah. They were giving out livestock to people.
All right.
And people called that family support initiative. But election day, they converted that to physical money.
Cash.
So for me, this arrest should have even started earlier so it could serve as deterrent for people that want to engage that on election day.
Okay. All right. I would like for us to go on a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion on the program. Please stay with us.
That's great. Good to see you.
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Here we are. discussing the outcome of the Osun governorship election. We have in the studio Paul James. He is the program manager, election, Yaga Africa, and also joining us virtually from Birnin Kebbi is Yakubu Ahmed, a member of the APC and also an associate of the APC vice presidential candidate. Yakubu Ahmed, if you can hear me, talk to us about the outcome of the Osun governorship election. What's your take? Your party says that they are reviewing the election results from that election. But we have heard observers commended INEC for a credible election. So would you consider the election as credible?
Yeah, on the face of it, from the testimonies of those who were there, the parties, the monitor, those who monitor it, I think there is an element of reason to commend INEC. That is not to say the APC does not have the right or does not have does not have reasons to want to challenge one part of it or the other. I do not know what they have at hand that will make them to want to challenge a part of it or the whole of it. I will leave that until I get all the facts out, what reasons they have. But on the surface of it, and on the basis of the comment and quite a number of the stakeholders, I think if INEC has not gotten it right entirely, I want to believe that it's beginning to get it right. We live in a country where there have been instances where, regardless of the level of transparency of a process, you still have people having reasons to want to challenge a part of it or the whole of it. I'm a member of the APC, and I think I will go with the conclusions of the party. If there are reasons for them to want to challenge the process or a part of it, I think I'm with the party. But again, if at the end of the day it is proved that nothing substantial in terms of reasons to want to challenge arises, I would rather want to join the bandwagon of those who commend the party, I mean the INEC, for getting it right to some extent. I think we are getting it right in the country. The fact that it took just few hours after election to begin to receive results uh, testifies to the fact that from 2015 to now, INEC has done quite a lot in terms of working out processes that in terms of the way we elect in this country.
Okay, well, a lot of arguments have been raised about the implication of this Osun victory on your own party. Looking at the fact that the Osun state is the home state of your own flag bearer, Siwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In fact, the incumbent governor is a cousin of his. And then a lot of people have pointed to the fact that, well, APC being a ruling party and with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the flag bearer, does he really have a grip of the southwestern part of the country? Because this raises questions as regards that.
I wouldn't want to believe that the result of the election as or is going to be the pointer or decider of what will happen in the 2023. I believe that that, that led to divisions, that led to problems in the leadership of the party, to losing the election in Osun State. Uh, as you know, the Southwest, as we see it from the north here, is politically sophisticated because of the level of education and exposure. They have the not necessarily elect a political party, but to elect people based on their credibility, based on their acceptance within the state. And I think in Osun State, what happened is that the problems we had within the APC leadership in Osun State, leading to factionalization, leading to lack of cohesion and unity, must have contributed to the election, to the result as we see it today. But I want to believe that the 2023 election is going to be quite different because the stakes are higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you have mentioned something which a lot of people have said may have contributed to the loss of Governor Oyetola in the elections, which is internal crisis within the party in some states.
Yeah.
What is the APC doing to ensure that all aggrieved parties are assuaged or that they are all brought together as we go ahead into the general elections?
Yeah, I think the party is wiser now, or must be wiser now, ordinarily. Where there are impunities, where there are, because there are reasons sometimes we take. I want to believe that to the APC, a big place. If the APC had gone to and entered the 2023 elections with the issues that are at stake today, the damage will have been quite big. But with the result of that, and knowing the reasons for the failure, I think that gives the party the latitude to want to look at itself internally and make corrections where necessary. And don't forget, all the from one state to the other. And I think from time to time, instances come up to want to give you the window to study the situation and make amends where necessary. I will assure you that the APC has the capacity. Don't forget, Asuwaji is just coming on board as a presidential candidate, and Kashin Shettima is just coming on board as a vice presidential candidate. These are people that know politics. These are people that have the capacity to mend problems. Give them time. Now, in the next few weeks, you will see an entirely new APC in terms of unity within the party.
All right. Well, I mean, it's a known fact that politics is a game of numbers, but also it is a game of interest as well. Are you confident that the national chairman of your party can, manage the various interests within your political party to make sure that the party remains united?
I think the issues now are beyond one individual in the party, regardless of the position he holds. It is now a problem of the party entirely. All the level of stakeholding, the National Executive Committee, the blah blah blah, the presidential candidate architecture that is now coming up with its own capacity. I think we should look at it wholesomely. The party, obviously, as I said, is not oblivious of the dangers of unity. And you see, as I said before, both the presidential candidate and his vice now, and of course, up with that abilities to want to really affect changes, not necessarily in changes in leadership, but changes in method of approach within the party. And you see, the national chairman, regardless of what people may say or think about him, is a workhorse. He has been a politician for a very long time and has been involved in quite a number of performances, both within rather than looking at the national chairman as an individual. I want us to look at the whole party and its structures that will come up with advices, that will come up with suggestions as to how to deal with this problem we have just seen and how to move the party forward. Make no mistake about it. The APC has the capacity to deal with these problems as we see it, and the next few weeks and perhaps the next 2-3 months, you will see what I'm telling you.
All right.
All right.
Let's
Thank you.
come back to the studio.
Yes,
Go back to
yes. I think Yakubu Ahmed has been very, very insightful. We thank you for joining us on Daybreak. We look forward to having you join us again another time.
So, you were commending INEC, and I was thinking, INEC deployed all its resources for the election in Osun because it was Some person said it was because it was just one state. Do you see them doing this sort of thing or achieving this kind of success when it's the general elections and they have to be everywhere, as it were?
So, in election, you compare apple to apple. You compare what happened in this election to the next election, state by state. I agree. I also have been, that has been my concern about the sort of deployments that happen in every election. It's not only INEC, security and all of that. As you speak, more than 30 of the states have different sort of internal insecurity issues, and people are also concerned about how that will affect the conduct of the 2023 election. But for INEC and election planning, we go by this electoral law that we have, the new electoral law, which now mandates INEC to start early planning. This process has started already since the 25th of February when they announced the timetable for the election. So my sense is this is happening across board. They have been meeting with the INEC heads, the registered electoral commissioners, speaking also by the side with other stakeholders around the election. Let's not forget, when you are talking about the success of Osun, it's not just about INEC, but look also about around, even on election, the influence of other stakeholders, the National Union of Road Transport Workers. We need to commend them also for early commencement of polls because it means they were on ground. They helped to move INEC personnel and materials to polling units. We saw that in Ekiti. Ekiti, by 7:30 in the morning, 75% of polling units have started the process. In Osun, by 7:30 in the morning, 78%. So we're making incremental progress. Whatever template they had used in Ekiti and Osun that worked for them, by implication, the expectation is that that approach should also be used for the 2023 election. And this engagement also needs to start already if they have not started. So I guess INEC also wouldn't want to, of course, the credit is up there. The confidence for INEC has increased. INEC wouldn't want that to deflate at any point.
Okay, you know, yesterday I heard the Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye, talk about how that they will be, you know, deploying 95 million ballot papers, you know, for each of the elections in national elections in 2023. So, and then if you put that side by side with the new arrangement for INEC not to keep election materials in the CBN and all of that, I'm just wondering how all the deployments, you know, of the materials will now be when you come to a general election in 2023. It definitely will not be as seamless as we've seen in the case of Osun or Ekiti or either of the off-cycle elections.
I'm very optimistic. The challenge is we are too ritualistic about certain things on around our election. All that is happening while we keep materials at the CBN is because of the trust issues, trust deficit. Materials have moved from wherever INEC imported them to Ekiti, no complaints. Materials moved from whatever INEC imported them to Osun, no complaints. Why INEC is not housing materials at the CBN was because of the partisanship status of the head of the CBN. We have other holding facilities in the country. Perhaps we still have our security agencies people have some level of trust for. We wouldn't say, for instance, the military doesn't have a facility that can hold INEC materials if we truly want to move them. Or we adopt the same template. Materials don't have to come to Abuja before they are dispatched. Largely, that was a problem that happened in 2019. Most of the materials arrived in Abuja before they started going to the state. In fact, from what we heard, some of those materials that were supposed to be in state A, for instance, ended up in state B because the dispatch was not managed properly. So why won't we just even think about a system that this process can just go directly to the state instead of even coming to Abuja before they are being dispatched? Beyond that also, I talked about the timeline for the election. The 95 million that Mr. Festus Okoye had mentioned is in relation to voter registration that is happening and why INEC needs to stop at the end of July so they can start planning. If you do this, there will be voter cleanup of the register that need to happen, display clearance and objection. And then we begin to talk about the production of those materials. Now, this is also in connection to the ballot papers. Let's not forget. In the past, what has been constituting delays is, one, the number of political parties that we have. People going to court to seek injunction and counter-injunction, and then they stop INEC along the way, delay INEC along the way. If we don't have all of these delays and INEC starts early, I see INEC distributing some of these non-sensitive materials, even in Ekiti, in Osun, that just happened.
Right.
I told you I was in.
All right, we have to
I was
end.
in Osun Central. 2 weeks to the election, non-sensitive materials were already dispatched to the local governments and to the in some sense even to the right. So we could do the same for 2023.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Paul James, Program Manager, Election, IAGA Africa. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak. We've also had a member of the APC, Yakubu Ahmed, who joined us via Zoom from Birnin Kebbi. And that's the show for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch up on our social media platforms and also on our YouTube channel. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching. Let's do the same tomorrow.
Thank you for spending this part of your morning with us. My name is Stella Iyaji. Let's do the same thing tomorrow. Have a pleasant day.